Okay, so we're talking about how, if there are all of this dispersion that happened, that we've basically been all over the world for a long time, how closely are we all related? So you might think, hey, we're less related because there's all these different things, but in fact, we're pretty closely related. Let's go into it. Oh, it's time for some math. Okay, so Christopher Lee, who played the bad guy in Lord of the Rings, he thought, hey, look, Charlemagne was my ancestor. I'll do this whole symphonic heavy metal album for Charlemagne. But it turns out that anybody with European ancestry is related to Charlemagne. Let's go into why. So here's the geek moment. So basically, you have you, and then there's two parents, and those parents have two parents, and those parents have two parents, and those parents have two parents. And if you go back 33 times to 33 generations back, that's 800 to 1,000 years ago, and you would personally have about 8 billion parents or great great whatever grandparents, 8 billion of them. And if you think, wait a second, that's more than there were on the planet, you are right. There are, in fact, that's way more than there were on the planet. So that means that at that moment, 33 generations back, it's impossible for all of those grandparents to exist separately. So all of you 33 generations back had the same grandparents. Yeah. Hey, how to resolve it? They basically, your great 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 grandmother was also your great 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 aunt. It's all kind of intermixed, back all the way far in the back. Okay, so most common recent common answer, probably lived no earlier than 1400 BC, but maybe as early as late as AD 55. Nefertiti, someone from whom we're all descended, is likely alive somewhere on the earth. Back a bit further, and you have a genetic isopoint. That point is where everyone's related. Um, we left Africa 120,000 years ago, but more than 120,000 years ago, maybe 1.2 million years ago. But basically, people have interspersed between since then. So why? How is that possible? Because if you remember, there's all these indigenous populations. It turns out that the Europeans got everywhere, and since the Europeans got everywhere, they basically slept with everybody. And when they slept with everybody, we all have European common ancestry. So that's where that, if you just lived in a isolated northern mountain, it doesn't matter. You basically, the Europeans came. When you did that, they added their ancestry to yours. So we're all related to Charlemagne. If you have European ancestry, you're all related to Charlemagne because he was back before the genetic isopoint. If you happen to be Jewish, you're actually related to everybody probably from 1492 on. You actually have a very short lifespan. So Charlemagne's basically around 80,000. So that's before the genetic isopoint. That's basically before Charlemagne's related to all of us because the people back then are all of our grandparents. They have to be. We don't necessarily share the same genes with our grandparents because you only got genes from one parent, one and a half of one parent, and so and those genes are mixed and matched and spliced. So the random shuffling keeps us from basically having increasing birth defects from all being related to each other. We do share a common ancestry. That means that when you look at race, there's no such thing as genetic purity or a separate lineage from another race. They all on not too long ago, all our ancestors are involved in every event in history, and we're on every winning side and every losing side of every war that ever was fought. So the idea that you are separate from other people is an illusion. So we're still different because men have 1% different DNA from women, and having 1% different DNA means that we are similar to, say, chimpanzees compared to women, because basically at that point, that 1% difference is similar to what we've difference from chimpanzees. We're also related to chimpanzees. We're also related to bonobos. And since we follow that chimp model is very masculine dominated. And the bonobos are very interesting because 75% of bonobo sex is non-reproductive, and nearly all bonobos are bisexual. And so males are dominated by females in that society, and the promiscuity of the females actually has provided a situation where the bonobos can actually monitor and maintain their own populations very differently from humans. Humans are modeling themselves on the chimpanzees. So the question is, we're all related. How are we adapting to our new world? And the answer is that we're not doing it very well. Moral systems that have worked in the past aren't working today, and we really need to reset ourselves in a moral, spiritual way so that we can actually work forward. Thank you all for coming. This has been the lecture on how we're all related.